So the most important thing is on your Synology NAS is making sure that it's running healthy. There's no point in having a NAS, configuring it, having users, having all this data, and then it's not actually performing the best that it can. So you want to make sure that it's running healthy, it's running well, all of that sort of stuff, that it's running secure. This video focuses on the Resource Monitor. This is an application that is installed on your DSM, on your Synology NAS, where you can see how things are going on your Synology NAS and lets you know whether apps are specifically taking up too much resources, whether users are taking up too much resources, whether you need to improve the resources or do different permission changes on your Synology NAS. Now we're logged into here to our DSM, and you already are fairly familiar, or at least you should be familiar with this thing called the widget on the right. There's another video that will go into a little bit around the widgets, but one of the widgets is this thing called the Resource Monitor, where you can see at a glance how your NAS is performing. How's the CPU? How's the RAM? How's the LAN? Right? How much CPU is actually being used? How much RAM is being used? And what your network performance upload and download is against your Synology NAS. And of course, your Synology NAS, the more you have spent on that Synology NAS, whether if it's a desktop, a rack-based, a mountable sort of NAS, whether if it's more enterprisey, whether it's more home, small business, you're going to have a lot or less resources than others. Okay, so just be aware of that. But of course, in some cases, you can add additional resources onto some Synology NASs if that is an option for you. Now, the main area where we're going to be focusing this video on is the Resource Monitor, which is accessible within the main menu. Of course, the one that's just on the desktop is just a snapshot. In here, you've got Resource Monitor. There it is right there. Now, we can open this up and you'll see a lot more information than the widget version, specifically around live information, overview around the CPU, the memory, the network, the disk, the volume, and iSCSI if that's what you're using. Of course, the CPU is how much CPU is being used on your Synology NAS. Is there a performance issue on your Synology NAS because of high CPU usage? The same because of memory usage, because of network, etc. Now, the great thing is at the very top, you've got a number of different tabs where you can go individually one by one to see a lot more information specific to that particular hardware function. CPU, here it is, all right? Here is a utilization. Here is what is going on right now. It's going to take a little bit of time as we start to go through, as we're in this window for a while. You'll see a lot more information starting to get populated. But you'll see, for example, if I open up something, let's just go ahead and open up USB copy. All right. Let's just go ahead and open up perhaps this. We'll open up the package center. All right, let's close this down. You'll see that there's just a little spike that's just happened. Now, not a lot, but it was enough to register that the CPU was used because I opened up some applications, right? So that's essentially what's going to be happening. So you can see exactly what's going on in there. User, system, IO wait, so input, output wait, how much time the CPU is waiting for specific resources, and then the average load against 1, 5, and 15 minutes. Memory, very similarly, okay? You'll see this is the amount of free memory, the cached memory, the buffer, the used, the reserved. So this is how much in the cache. So this is how much is sort of reserved, waiting. This is the free. This is how much free I've got. I don't have too much free. A lot of it is sort of sitting in the cache space, which is fine because when we're uploading, when we're doing certain functions, it's going to push it into the cached area of our memory so that you can get better performance out of it. So that's completely normal. But you'll see that this is what it's sort of looking like. And then very similar, when you start to run specific apps, specific functions, you'll see that that will go up and down depending on the sort of memory. You've got physical memory, you've got your swap memory as well, all right? Network, how much total? You've got more than one LAN point, all right? In my case, I've got 2 network points on my Synology NAS. If you've got 1, you'll only see 1 LAN. If you've got 4 or more, you'll see all of them listed on there, and the exact performance sent and received, upload and download against each of those LAN points, all right? And you can see essentially whether you've got a network performance issue. Now, the great thing is that you can actually select this area and see exactly what happened in that specific time. So there's the date, that's the time that it happened, and how much was received and sent at that time. So you can see perhaps, a user opened up something really big, or there was a really big file downloaded by a particular application. At that time, you can actually pinpoint and try to diagnose things further, which is really, really helpful. Disk, very similarly, how is my disk performing? How is now the volume performing? Now, of course, we talked about you're creating a storage pool made up of all your disks and your RAID type, and then you're creating a volume within that pool, and this is how is that volume performing. And then whether you're using iSCSI to use connections to LUNs, to a VMware environment, things of that nature. In my case, we're not using iSCSI, so that's why that is blank. But if you are using iSCSI to connect, essentially making your NAS into having some sort of a SAN function, a storage area network, block-based function, you'll see some information with regards to iSCSI in there, all right? So that is the overall performance. Within Task Manager, you see exactly what tasks are currently running on your Synology NAS. So this is very similar to what you can see when you do a Control-Alt-Delete on a Windows computer, and you can see exactly what processes, what tasks are running on your Windows computer. Well, here it is on our Synology NAS. So you can see that DSM network is running. You can see these are the processes running, and this is how much CPU, how much memory, how much read-write is being used against that specific process. So you can actually go and pinpoint whether there is an actual application that is causing that issue. And if it's that app, perhaps you've downloaded an app from the package center and it's just chewing up the resources. Well, right away from here, you can see exactly what that may be, and you can sort it by that services. Here are all of my processes, all right? Everything that's running on that via the Task Manager. The connected users just shows me who's logged in right now. So I've got the IP addresses of people who are logged in, users that are logged in, or services. Here are 2 ESXi hosts connected over NFS. Here is a test share connected over the CIFS or SMB, and here is HTTPS. Essentially, this is the web browser that we've got open, and that's how we're accessing it that way. All right, so there you go. There's a little bit of a summary on what's connected. You can kill the connection. You can refresh. You can actually go and disable a specific user if you don't want them logging in and maybe they're causing you some grief. You can limit some speeds in here if you need to. Settings, you can see some further things. So real-time duration, 15 minutes. How much more? The higher, the more obviously your NAS will require in terms of storage. Enabled usage history. And performance alarms. So this is actually really good. We recommend that you enable usage history to help you check and analyze users performing at alarm events. So you can turn that on back into settings. They're now turned on. You can now see under here, you can create specific alarms. So if a specific thing happens, let me know. So this is great. There is another video that we're going to talk about notifications and the importance of getting notifications over emails and things of that nature. But the great thing about doing this is you can actually get notified and triggered based on specific rules that you have created. So this is fantastic. So I definitely would recommend using this if you are really, concerned around the performance of your NAS and you want to be alerted to specific things that are going on when perhaps the CPU usage hits a particular threshold. Then you can go into here and configure that manually one by one as a rule. So it's really, really good feature. And then performance alarms, of course, this will get populated based on the settings area. If you've created some rules, when things are triggered in there, they'll be listed in there under the performance alarms section on the resource monitor. Okay, so the resource monitor, super, super important. It's great that there's a little widget to give you a snapshot on what is going on. So this is great for administrators. So if you are concerned around the performance of the NAS, if there's an issue, if there's an error, using it for troubleshooting, it's great to go into the resource monitor to see exactly what is going on and to help you diagnosing the issue.